The reason we don't want the government tracking us is that we don't trust them with our private data. Most governments are tracking us without our knowledge, and that reduces our trust in government. If our trust in government continues to deteriorate, it will eventually result in the destruction of our societies. Governments need to increase transparency or stop tracking. It has to be one or the other. The decisions made by your government are impacting you and people around the world. Are they making the right decisions? And if you could vote on them, how would you vote? If you're new to my channel, One Direct Democracy is a movement for upgrading the global democratic system by taking power away from the politicians and putting it in the hands of the people. It'll also eliminate left and right-wing politics. I've created the technology and a plan for how to make it work. If you want more information, check out the links in the description. For each episode, I'll pick an important issue, outline the problem, talk about the possible solutions, and then you can decide how you would vote. In this case, we're talking about data privacy. Okay, if you're just looking for another talking head that isn't actually interested in doing anything, you're in the wrong place. If you want to be part of the solution, let's get into it. At this point in time in 2022, you know that everything that you do online is being tracked.
Essentially, every click, every online interaction is recorded, and not just recorded by the company that you interacted with. The creepiest part of this is that it's being recorded by dozens, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of so-called third parties online.
Okay, so what is being tracked?
Like mouse movements, key presses, what part of the page you interact with. All these are sent in real time on websites that use session replay scripts.
Who are all these people that are doing all of this tracking?
And a session replay is something like a video recording of your browser screen when you're browsing a website. They're not reputable companies that you might have heard of. You don't know who they are. You don't know that company is recording your screen. You don't know who's going to get access to that video. And in that process, these companies try to redact your passwords and credit card numbers and so on. But that redaction, doing it in an automated fashion, is technically hard. I would say essentially impossible. So they fail a lot of the time. So we've found that credit card information, health information like your drugs and prescriptions, student information, all of that sensitive information is getting into the hands of third parties.
Okay, so we know that we're being tracked. Some of this tracking is done by businesses that want to collect data so that they can start advertising to us. That's annoying, but we accept it. But some of the tracking is done by governments. That's something that's not acceptable. And anything that the government does with your data should be completely transparent. According to this article from Yahoo, a bipartisan group of legislators today introduced a bill in the House and Senate that would expand transparency requirements when it comes to government surveillance of US citizens, adding email, text, location, and cloud data to the existing reporting framework. Okay, so how is this different from what happens now? Currently, the US government is required to alert Americans who have been targeted by wiretaps and bank record subpoenas, but this doesn't apply to digital or cloud data. Okay, so if it doesn't apply to digital or cloud data, it means that there's effectively no transparency whatsoever, because that's the majority of the information. The Government Surveillance Transparency Act aims to adjust the parameters of this rule, expanding it to cover more common, modern forms of digital communications and data storage. The people behind the bill argue that hundreds of thousands of criminal surveillance orders from US authorities go unreported each year, keeping Americans in the dark about the broad scope of government monitoring programs. There's no way to put a good spin on the government tracking the people and deliberately keeping them in the dark. The bill also addresses the government's use of gag orders to halt technology companies from informing their customers of surveillance campaigns. So what does this mean? It means that the government can make a technology company track you and provide that information to the government, and also force the technology company to legally not tell you anything about what just happened. While many companies have tried voluntarily reporting government subpoenas and data requests to their customers, authorities have used gag orders to keep these campaigns secret, according to the legislators. Okay, you know how law enforcement will react to this bill. They'll say that this makes it more difficult for them to do their job. This is what one of the sponsors of the bill had to say about that. When the government obtains someone's email or other digital information, users have a right to know. Wyden said in a press release. Our bill ensures that no investigation will be compromised, but makes sure that the government can't hide surveillance forever by misusing, sealing and gag orders to prevent the American people from understanding the enormous scale of government surveillance, as well as ensuring that the targets eventually learn their personal information has been searched. Okay, so if this law is passed, how will the information be available to the public? Alongside reforms to notification requirements, and the gag order process, the legislation would force authorities to publish online general information about every surveillance order they complete. It would also require law enforcement to notify the courts if they search the wrong person, house or device in the scope of an investigation, and also if the company shares unauthorized information. So under current laws, the government can search the wrong person and invade your privacy and not even let you know that any of this ever happened. Okay, so that's the summary. Should there be more transparency about how the government tracks and handles your private data? And if you could vote on this bill directly, would you vote in favor of it or against it? Let me know in the comments. The reality is we've reached a point in time in our evolution where representative democracy no longer serves the will of the people, and the problems that made direct democracy impractical have been solved. That's why I created One Direct Democracy. It's a movement for upgrading the global democratic system by taking the power away from politicians and putting it in the hands of the people with direct democracy. I've created the technology and a plan for how to make it work. We also don't have to convince any politicians or powerful people to do anything to make this happen. We have the power to do it ourselves, we just have to decide to do it. If you're new to all of this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, check out the other videos on my channel and the links in the description. Direct democracy is the purest form of democracy. Representative democracy is an outdated, blunt instrument.